organization.
They don't have very many of them. If they do, it's usually Oman that gets.
Symbolizes
prophecy.
To the church since the ascension of our Lord, and that was from the church of really friend Jean Guiton, who later published it when he died.
How close are they?
Very close.
But something must, especially American Luciferians. It was in a certain sense Lucifer has power, but I'm sure he hopes to own some power.
Of my new show in 2015,
The world's attention about are now in play. I think it's interesting that the green scope, all the instrumentation, we're being prepared. The key lead religious figure in the world.
That there is this encyclical and the Antichrist as having allegiances and endowments, and that he says their beliefs you dissect us in the Hebrew exegesis. I mean, this can be fact-checked for them. So is this setting up towards what you're implying, Steve, or is that's why the Jesuits wanted to seize control back in his predictions in his book, The Society of Jesus and the Betrayal of the Roman? And what's astonishing, and that whole week they started discussing what they've never stopped discussing, Gog Magog, and they're standing there, and right in front of them is Petrus Romanus, given the detection of extraterrestrial. He starts saying something different. He starts saying the extraterrestrial, because that puts limits on God's creative ability. So the whole tone then started changing. And now we've had this whole process that we thoroughly document. For instance, he says extraterrestrial intelligence. out there on Italian television. He also partook in a documentary that was being made here in the United States. And guess what he was saying? He was saying not only
someplace and fascinated him, but again, the idea that the deception is going to be so great
and never got a chance to write about it. Malachi was working on one in his own house, and he fell down a stairway, went into a car. Coons, you remember? He was also a conservative. He was warning about the danger of the Jesuits invading the Vatican, and what they intended. How they intended to use the Vatican as a vehicle for the emergence of the new world order. We were there at the time, and they were making some adjustments on the large binocular telescopes, the largest telescope that they had bought the Vatican. And then what we found out was that was a mountain because they believe that mountain is a stargate. It's that, by the way, Chris Putnam and I are going back again. This is
an interview that you saw. I wanted her to have it. And do you remember what I said? I said, it's really weird, Tom, when we go on that a Stargate portal. I had photographs. Obviously, I don't get access to them. If I do, everybody gets access. And the very subject matter that we're talking about, portals, Stargates, I posted 2 Google patents. When Tom and I used to talk about translation, the end of 1.5 decades in all the books we've written, but I think between us we're up to not what we put to our own understanding.
Came from, whether it is these cryptid hybrid beings, alien.
Why? Because of our environmental damages, what's supposed to be your will of indigenous people. And why is it? And this is why we found out they were fighting why. The tribal community is there, and they've got cameras fixed on that mountain, why it's offspring of the Watchers and Nephilim, and he begins to build a sense of God. Shemayim, he says they will do it. So he goes down and confounds the land of tribulation upon the face of the earth. Now, remind me, Sheila, what you want. It's encyclical. We haven't read it yet, but he's going to give it in front of the United Nations. It's definitely going to use presentations about, quote, human ecology. We already know he's going to put the blame for what ails the world on terrible human socialism. The other day I was trying to remember why 30 made me believe that the final world order, the Antichrist, the false system, environmentalism. So you have a brand new gospel that is coming out.
And even this coming windows of
political
common
authority. You have the world's greatest religious authority championing the faith.
It's not hi, my welcome. January is not good at all. My time Yama come. Antitica my bus. Thank you. Charles Stanley. I'll do that. Okay. Take care. God bless. Bye. 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 Bye.
Thing. Go out and read all of his latest commentary on this, where he's demonizing those that disagree with, he doesn't call it Marxism, but
Adhesive furniture and all the, this is where we're at now, that we're watching, Tom, not only this play out in real life and everything else, it's absolutely not. Should they praise God? Absolutely. The testimony of Jesus is a spiritual
of sin and punishment. Most describe a peaceful journey. Being guided through to the hospital, his condition quickly worsened.
And the doctors told me that. And I had their mouths in me and on me. And they became extreme.
The hell is had before eternity.
St. Augustine, City of God.
It was a bit like some
about the tortures I had the sense of hell, and the sense of hell was very real. Because
according to the Christian tradition, the devil has many ancestors. Bible, the snake in the Garden of Eden is simply a snake.
The devil in the Garden of Eden, and of course the serpent.
It's one of God's most beautiful and beatific angels. But his
sent to the throne.
Lucifer and his warrior angels in
a home.
How in his character he has to be angry and wrathful. But this is on him.
But not all faiths embrace.
Chamber until
Hail, Satan!
Who goes to
harlots spoken of in the book of Revelation? I used to think the same thing until recent events began unfolding just over the past few years, and after much research of the scriptures and research, period in general on the subject. Now, if you don't agree with this, that's fine. This does not make or break our salvation, but it certainly does help as we're watching things unfold prophetically to know exactly what's going on. Now, there's many reasons I feel that New York City is this mysterious mother of all harlots, and I'm going to explain that here in the beginning of this article. Then I'm just going to go through and brush over some of the highlights here within my article. So first I had written, God is up front. Evil is extraordinarily deceptive, sneaky, and oftentimes masquerades as good. When our enemy, Satan, is full of himself, he overplays his cards. The thing of it is, people do not want to believe the truth. They would prefer to call what is evil good and what is good evil. Why do the people of this day want to be deceived? And we're seeing more and more of that, where people just want to remain asleep. No matter what you say or what you show to them, they don't want to believe. They want to ignore everything that's going on. Another thing that I see our master, for we follow your desires, your will, and saturate ourselves with everything you have to offer. We no longer worship the God of our ancestors or Jesus Christ. We consider all that is good bad, and we consider all that is bad good. We are ready to be destroyed and to spend our eternity in the lake of fire. We have given ourselves to you, our master, and we refuse to repent. We are an evil people who loves darkness and not the light. So now with that being said, we're going to take a look at some of these photos. Now, it gets more interesting as we go. I had to start off with the least interesting ones first to kind of give you an idea so that you understand the more interesting ones later on. All right, now on this cathedral in New York City is some very strange images which depict the destruction of New York City and some of its very important buildings. Okay, this is just one of the pictures. It is called the Masonic World. The Cathedral of St. John the Divine, Morningside Heights, New York City. You can see one of the pictures here. It says this building has been claimed as being the world's greatest cathedral. Realistically, they can maintain such high hopes because its sources of funding included tycoon elitists who share the Nephilim Luciferian blood, such as J.P. Morgan, and prominent figures like the Grand Master of the Masons of the state of New York. In March of 1925, the Freemasons were so proud of their accomplishment in completing this cathedral that it was featured on the front page of a publication titled Masonic World, and that was a March 1925 issue. On the western side of the cathedral, stone masons sculpted countless scenes, again, this is just one of them, that are very out of place for a cathedral. The most striking image is the bone-chilling depiction of the destruction of New York City and its landmarks. So going down, we can see some very strange things. Like you see here, this is the Statue of Liberty. And it says that the distance from the Statue of Liberty's torch to the tridents inside the 9/11 Memorial Museum Pavilion is 12,000 feet exactly, which is an astoundingly round number. Here you can see Lucifer the Light Bearer. This is the New York City Rockefeller Center. So they've got a picture of Lucifer the Light Bearer there, which happens to also be outside of an ice arena. Very strange. I'll show you that here shortly. Okay, here's something interesting. See this Egyptian picture, okay? It says one of the most important parts of an ancient Egyptian ritual was titled Stretching the Cord, because it was associated with the goddess Seshet, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, okay? It's spelled S-E-S-H-E-T, mistress of the House of Architects. The cord in question is the mason's line that was used to measure the dimensions of the building and then align the building with the stars and or points of the compass. Okay, now you see here a picture of Statue of Liberty. Now the definition of the word Sesheta means hidden things, mysteries, secrets. So this clearly implies that Pharaoh is being given dominance of those mysteries through the goddess Seshet. Her symbol, the papyrus plant, symbolizes a 7-pointed star. Pharaoh Thutmose III called her She of 7 Points. Now this isn't the only thing, but one thing that's noteworthy. Notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the Statue of Liberty, known as Isis and also Lucifer the Light Bearer, was built and erected by the Freemasons. Okay, so we have a Luciferian false god symbol, the symbol of Satan, facing all the buildings right there on the coastline of New York City. Let's go take a look at the picture real quick. You can see right here with the torch up in the air, and of course there's the old Twin Towers facing New York City, shining the light of Lucifer on one of our major cities in the United States of America that also is the center of the world trade and finances and money and many other important things. Okay, here is another cathedral, and you can see the Luciferian symbolism here. Now, here's something called Cleopatra's Needle. Now, the Freemasons had funded the expedition that transferred this obelisk from Egypt to New York City. It's obviously a phallic symbol, The exact distance from Cleopatra's Needle to the Alma Mater sculpture at Columbia is exactly 3,141 meters. Now, pi also happens to be 3.141. Okay, the Illuminati, Freemason, Luciferian, Nephilim bloodline, they have a lot of symbolism, numbers, shapes, and all sorts of things that they use. Those are their secrets, and they are the keepers of secrets, the mysteries, okay? They're very evil. Now, you might notice I keep saying the Nephilim bloodline. Don't think for a second that Lucifer, Satan, doesn't have his pure evil bloodline. And I've said this before in other videos. Jesus Christ has a pure bloodline. Well, Satan, the master of deception, the manipulator, the copycat, he has his too. He's making his pure evil bloodline for the coming Antichrist, who I wholeheartedly believe that person already exists today and is getting ready to step out in the public eye, and many people are going to know who he is, and many people are going to be fooled. Okay, now let's move on. If that wasn't enough for you, the distance from Cleopatra's Needle to 3 World Financial Center is exactly 333,000 inches. Now notice how the cord is oriented in line with the orientation of 3 World Financial Center, almost as if the building was intentionally designed to point at Cleopatra's Needle. 3 World Financial Center is the same building which contains the exquisite 11 tiers 9/11 memorial. Okay, now aerial shot here. Okay, notice that this looks very similar to Orion's belt. Okay, and this is ground zero. Now look here, see Orion's belt? Orion's belt lines up with the pyramids, the Giza pyramids. This was intentionally done back when the Giza pyramids were constructed. Okay, Egypt was a huge, huge Nephilim place at the time. You know, that a lot of your pharaohs and so forth were in the Nephilim bloodline. All right, so that's an interesting note there. Now I'm going to show you an aerial here of the Giza pyramids. See the 3 pyramids there.